Dolphins, the shape of their face, their mouth, looks like they're smiling. But the truth of the matter is they can't change that look on their face. People think, oh, this dolphin is happy here, he's smiling. But if that dolphin were laying dead on the ground right here, it would still look like it was smiling and happy.
Dolphins are highly intelligent animals. When they are in the captivity, I think they are subjected to the higher level of stress probably than any other animal, because the highly developed brain and nervous system, I suppose they are subjected to the higher level of stress.
The captivity industry, the public display industry, is all about educating you how you control the behavior of marine mammals in order to get the applause, in order to get the tickets sold. So it's the exact opposite of what the Marine Mammal Protection Act says we're supposed to be doing, to be honoring and revering these animals, and most importantly, protecting them. What you learn at a swim program, what you learn at a petting pool, even what you learn in therapy sessions, if you go out in the wild and do that, you can get arrested, and rightfully so, because you are walking into the houses, to the environment, to the neighborhoods of these marine mammals, and you are basically becoming a terrorist. You are terrorizing them when they are doing what they're supposed to be doing: swimming, fishing, sleeping, having babies.
All dolphins are controlled by their food in captivity. It's one of the reasons why captivity is so stressful. That may be the only animal in the zoo that actually has to work to do tricks in order to be fed. The trainers here would call that positive reinforcement, but from the dolphin's perspective, it is food deprivation, because if they don't do it properly, they don't get fed.
The whole concept of being entertained by some of the really bad lessons that you walk away from these places after having bought a ticket. It's a waste of educational label. It's not education, it's miseducation and it's misrepresentation.
If you go into this place or any other dolphin captive habitat, they'll tell you, we love these dolphins, they're our family. So it makes me question what love means to them. Love is not a one-way relationship.
The psychological effects of living in captivity causes all sorts of stresses. The stress of sheer boredom, for one thing, of having nothing around. That would be like us living in a plain white room with no windows.
Captivity is very depressing. It's very boring and very depressing, and it's even depressing for the trainers.
Because it's the same thing over and over and over every day, the same blaring music and the same clapping trainers and the same routines.
Some animals become aggressive, especially the males, because of their captive situation. We give depressants to the petting pool dolphins because that environment of being stuck with people grabbing at you created dolphins that were very aggressive and were turned into biters. And those animals were given depressants on a regular basis to control their behavior.
I pulled it and raised it up, and then when the dolphin saw it, it leaped at me and bit me and ate the carton.
What did that feel like?
It really, really hurt.
I've seen people rammed, I've seen people bitten and rake marks that just shredded their forearms. They don't always happen in the wild because the animals get a chance to choose whether they want to stay or go. And you won't get hurt. If you impose yourself on these animals, you can get hurt, just like you do enough with a dog that doesn't want your attention, you're going to get bit.
Usually the effects of captivity are to make a whale go quite crazy. Look what happened with Tilikum. He has killed 3 people. He just went crazy from the effects of being in captivity because they don't do that in the wild.
It's hard to say what these animals go through, like many captive and kidnapped and hostage.
We have this for a fairly short time with other animals like pigs, for example. We bred them for centuries, right? And this contact was always maintained, especially farmers. But with the dolphins, it is quite recent happening, so we cannot really tell the consequences unless something happens. Only after that we can think about. A priori, we are, for some reason, we are considering it as safe, which might be not true. Once again, I'm suggesting more research and more evaluation of these potential risks associated with this type of entertainment industry.
There's all kinds of ways you can find yourself in a hospital as a result of buying a ticket to see these poor animals as slaves.
A lot of people have been injured in Swim with the Dolphin programs. A lot more than you think. There's several reasons why often it's not reported. One is most people who get attacked by a dolphin in a Swim with the Dolphin program are made to believe it was their fault. They actually feel that they must have done something wrong to make that dolphin bite them or make that dolphin ram them. And so they don't report it because they feel guilty. That's one reason why they don't report it. The other reason is because the facility itself often encourages them not to report it. And I believe in a couple of cases they've actually bought people off, not to settled, gave them some money so that they wouldn't report it. They're bruised, they're fractured or broken bones, they're bitten, they have to get stitches, 5 stitches, maybe 100 stitches.
I do know that when it comes to the several people who've been injured at SeaWorld, they many times have settled out of court and been given an extensive amount of money in exchange for not talking about the details of their injury and how this happened, and certainly not having any further conversation about being injured. The safety is guaranteed by the hush money that is given to pay for whatever injury and whatever money is made to make sure those people don't go out and sue, and if they do sue, in many cases, it's an out-of-court settlement, so nobody can talk about it.
I think it's an extremely foolish thing to allow people to do. I don't think it's safe for the animals. I don't think it's safe for the people. A lot of people have been injured in Swim with the Dolphin programs.
People really don't think that visiting aquarium with dolphins pose any kind of danger, because it is the perception is that this is completely safe environment, which is probably not.
But they're constantly fighting the fact that these dolphins are crapping and peeing in the pool in large amounts. Dolphins defecate and urinate 3 times more than the average human being.
And we know that most of the fecal material, it is actually microbial biomass, germs, which are dissipated in this water.
There is no way to immediately fix some of these high coliform counts.
There is a defecation by a dolphin. There is about, I don't know, the numbers could be, trillions and trillions of bacteria are released. You may expect that there are self-cleaning properties of natural ecosystems, right? But in the enclosed facility, what you can do, you can just pour maybe chlorine into that water or try to filter it, but how it is efficient or not efficient against disease-causing bacteria, it is not clear.
You are at risk of getting dysentery, of getting skin infections that are going to turn into a flesh-eating bacterial infection.
It's not possible to swim without swallowing some water, right? Some of the bacteria will be coming really into your gastrointestinal tract. And second, it is, of course, you are not protecting your skin as well.
There's 100% chance that you're going to potentially ingest, not just come close to the water with snorkels or in swimming with your mouth open or closed. It can get up your nose and down your sinuses and into your stomach, that you are going to potentially become contaminated. Now, whether your immune system is up to the task of dealing, of having this intrusion of bacteria or viruses that are in the water.
This purification system working in a way that it immediately filtered the bacteria, I don't think so. Maybe some bacteria even not trapped by the filters, so they are actually circulating in that system. Probably they become like endogenous population of this aquarium, and maybe even without defecation it may cause some problems for the visitors.
The water quality conditions, whether it's a natural lagoon or an artificial environment are replete with bacteria, viruses, and infectious materials that if an animal was compromised because of a wound or compromised because of poor health or immune deficiency, you are basically going to end up with an animal that needs a lot of medical attention, and it can ultimately die just from the water quality conditions. Medical reports, necropsy reports, and marine mammal inventory reports that you can find with the National Marine Fisheries Service that show you that animals have died from bacterial infections. And those bacterial infections come from the poor water quality that always exists.
What is actually happening in these systems? If there are so big bacterial load that it may pose the danger for visitors, if there are some bacteria which are, say, coming from humans and can infect the animals. In some studies it has been shown that, for example, so-called Staphylococcus aureus, methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, which is abbreviated MRSA, can be transferred among animals, can be transferred from animals to humans, from humans to animals. New strains are really appearing, which are extremely difficult to treat because they become resistant to many antibiotics. Healthy people also may carry MRSA. They just immune to it, they just tolerate it, but they are still carriers, which can be transferred to the other people.
Diseases that dolphins get, we can also get. Diseases that we get, we can transfer to dolphins, and vice versa.
They get ulcers, they get tooth infections, they get pneumonia a lot from just poor circulation, poor cardiovascular operations. All of that just slows down in captivity. And so sometimes they get, just common everyday diseases that usually their immune system is able to defeat, but because they are under such stresses, their immune system just can't keep up.
That, oh gosh, I came to work, with a common cold and sneezing and coughing, and next thing I know, we've got a dolphin or two that's doing sneezing and coughing, respiratory ailments that they have to be put on antibiotics.
I believe that a few of the animals that have died in the past have died because they've been exposed to something.
Dolphins, they might be also receiving these antibiotics just to suppress the possible infections.
There's any number of stomach medications that are used in the captivity industry to calm the effects of the stress of captivity, the stress of a show schedule, the stress of eating dead fish. It's not the diet these animals are used to having.
When I worked here, we used Tagamet, Maalox, tranquilizers, and I assume that they still do that. Antidepressants, Prozac.
Diseases that can jump the species barrier. All right, so tuberculosis, for example. We can give tuberculosis to marine mammals. Brucellosis. Brucellosis is a disease of cattle, for example. It can jump to cetaceans, and then it can jump from cetaceans to humans. So there's several viruses and bacteria that can jump from cetaceans to people and people to cetaceans.
Fungal infections like Candida or Aspergillus, this type of microbes.
When you are, for example, swimming with these animals, you'd better hope they're healthy and that you're healthy, because otherwise there could be problems.
There are many examples that the animals can serve as the reservoirs of the disease-causing bacteria. For example, in pigs or chicken, we have Salmonella. They are not causing any kind of trouble, only maybe in extreme cases for pigs, for example, or for chicken. But when they get into the humans, they're causing extreme disease. So the animals definitely can harbor bacteria which are not causing any major problems for animals. But once they are getting into the humans, there could be major trouble. If the doctors can isolate disease-causing bacterium, and the same bacterium is isolated from the aquarium which was visited maybe previously, then you can make a link. But presently the thing is that people really don't think that the aquariums may cause some sort of problems.
The public display industry, as I participated in it, and I'm not proud to have done that, I'm glad to have done that so that I can, with eyes wide open, be very critical of the public display facility, does very little to represent to children, to adults, to students, to scientists, what real dolphins, whales, and sea lions are all about.
Are we doing the correct thing for the dolphins? Is it right for them to be kept in captivity, away from the ocean? Is it right for us to come here and pay money to see them and for them to be eating frozen fish where they could be swimming out there in the wild?
Public display industry leaves you with an image of an animal that does tricks for people in exchange for food and sometimes even corporal punishment, isolation in pens, things that I don't think dolphins ever even conceived of. In fact, my understanding of marine mammals is that they've lived a lot longer on this planet than we have, and they've done a better job of taking care of themselves and the planet, and we have more to learn from them than they have to learn from us. And the public display industry does not even come close to helping us understand the lessons that dolphins and whales can teach us about peaceful coexistence in their own environment and peaceful coexistence among themselves. The public display industry, as far as I'm concerned, is all about turning turnstiles and making money for the public displayers. The poor animals that are on public display get nothing in return and in fact are misrepresented in many, many ways.
Keeping dolphins in captivity that you can't understand until you see them in the wild. When you see them in the wild, you see their true grace, power, and speed that keeping them in captivity just diminishes. It's humiliating and demeaning for them to be in captivity. It takes away who they are.
There's so much more that we can go out and watch animals in the wild or watch film footage of animals in the wild and learn from them than we can by buying a ticket to sit in the seat or go jump in the water at these captive facilities and potentially end up in an emergency room.
We have been suggesting for many years to the marine parks in the United States that they could change their business model and they could begin to build a lot of exhibits and experiences that would be very exciting, very rich and thrilling, that would be great for the young ones and for the old ones, would be truly educational, that would be the kind of, Hollywood wizardry, the kind of digital displays, that even holograms, even whales and dolphins that come out of the walls and swim alongside, and you could hear the sounds, and you could have all the other kinds of marine life in with this world, and the people could be right in there, right with the animals under the sea in the way that the technology can make that possible now.